Okay. Hey everyone, I'm just going to wait to make sure that this is loading properly. If you're on, I can't see where the comments would pop up. Here we go. There we go. We're on it. Hey everyone, how you doing? Hey ADHD doers, thank you so much for having me as part of this program. I am super excited. So this is first live for all things that are health, training, nutrition related. You have sent me some really awesome questions. I'll try and cover as many of them as I can today. And of course, you're going to have more questions. You might even have more questions from the answers that I give you as well. So if you do, just pop it into my next event that I'll load up for the next live. This is going to be happening weekly. The times may change. It'll probably always be on Wednesdays. And I'll give you a little bit of an extra hint as to what else I'll be doing with you guys at the end of this live as well. If you're going to be watching live, then start popping just anything into the comments. So you can put a 1 just to say, hey, I'm live, or you can put a 2 to say that you're watching it when it's been uploaded. All of your questions that I see come through, I'll try to answer as well. So thank you for having me. Let's get started. Now, I've kind of tried to summarize a few of the questions that have come in because there's a few that were similar, and I could see that there was a couple that there was more than one person that was resonating with it as well. And before I forget, because, you know, memory, if you have any questions that you don't feel comfortable putting into the group, feel free to DM me. For some of you, I've already sent friend requests. You can all add me as a friend. Go for it, please do. And you can DM me if you have any questions that you feel that are a little bit more intimate for your situation. And if I think that they are valuable for other people as well, of course I'm going to answer them in a live too, but I'll make sure that it doesn't come back to you. So I'll make sure that your privacy is important, and I won't make it obvious that you've asked the question. But there might be some other people that it's related to, which is why we have this group as well. We have this group because we're all in the same boat. And I actually do love that we're on the same boat because I feel like I've finally found my tribe. You guys probably don't know, I can't remember exactly what I wrote in my little, hey everyone, this is me, the other day, but I've only just recently been diagnosed with ADHD, and it has been an absolute wow moment for me. I've started connecting with other people, of course, like this group that have ADHD, and I'm just learning so much about myself through their experience. And I'm going to answer a few of the questions with my experience with my life and my health and how I've been able to manage myself up until the ripe old age of 31. So I'll get to the questions now. So best time to train. Okay, there's a little bit of confusion in the comments there of like whether you should train in the morning or whether you should train in the evening. Now, what this comes back to is what neurotransmitters are actually released when you train. So of course, as ADHD people that we are, the legends that we are, the neurodivergent people that we are deficient in dopamine and norepinephrine or noradrenaline. They're the same thing, just different names, depending on what country you're in. And what does that mean? So dopamine is one of our happy hormones. Dopamine is the long-term happy. Serotonin is the short-term happy. So serotonin is what we get when we jump onto social media and we start scrolling and liking stuff. Dopamine is our long-term happy hormone. So that means this feeling overall fulfilled. Whereas serotonin helps us to give those little bursts of excitement, but doesn't actually do anything for us long term. So when we're training, we're actually increasing dopamine. How awesome is that? And that's why people get things like training high or runner's high and that kind of thing. So where in your day do you think that you want to feel happiness and fulfillment the most? For most of us, it's going to be earlier in the day. And that will help to change the rest of your day as well. So if you're training first thing in the morning or earlier in your day, let's say from any time between the time that you wake up to around about lunchtime or early afternoon, you're going to be not just helping yourself to feel great in that moment, but you're going to start having that goodness feeling transposed to the rest of your day as well. So what exercises actually do that the best? And I think you might have gotten on that I'm trying to answer these questions quickly. Reason why is because I don't know about you, but okay, I definitely do know a little bit about you. You're probably going to get a little bit phased out if I start answering questions in big long-winded explanation. So I'm going to try and keep it short and sharp so that you guys can keep on track with me and send me more questions so that I can help you further on as well. So we want to train earlier in the day so that we can boost that dopamine. Oh, and I forgot another point with that one. So when we are training, not only are we increasing dopamine and norepinephrine, like I mentioned earlier, the norepinephrine or noradrenaline's purpose is to help us to feel more motivated. So you've got dopamine that helps you to feel more fulfilled, and noradrenaline or norepinephrine, and I'll probably just keep using both of those terms, that will help you feel motivated. Now, those are two pretty powerful feelings, don't you think? And people that aren't neurodivergent, people that just have a normal neurochemistry, they have that feeling a lot more readily than we do. So that's why a lot of people with ADHD end up having either jobs or career paths, or they just have hobbies that are built around exercising or just moving a lot, because as they're doing those things, they are increasing their norepinephrine and their dopamine levels. So what would be the best time to train in terms of you fulfilling that happiness and that fulfilling that motivation earlier in the day? See how early you can train, and then mimic that same workout later in the day as well, and see what the difference is with your day, because everyone's going to be slightly different. I know for myself, I feel the best if I train very first thing in the morning. What time is that? Pretty much around 5 or 6 a.m. I do have very early starts because I'm a personal trainer, so sometimes I start work at 6 a.m., which also boosts my dopamine because, you know, I'm training with people. But for other people, you might wake up later in the day because that's just your schedule. So wake up as early as, start training as early as is comfortable for you. But try not to have it in the evening. The other reason why we don't want to leave it too late in the evening is because cortisol. So cortisol, that is our stress hormone. And with ADHD, we are absolutely fantastic at having cortisol just absolutely flooding our brain. So if we have cortisol in our brain quite a lot, which is distress cycling around, that's going to help us to have those ruminating thoughts, which obviously we don't want, that actually increases with training as well. So you've got dopamine and norepinephrine and cortisol that all three are increasing in your workouts. There's different types of training though that actually increase that cortisol level differently. So the next question that you guys are actually putting in there kind of links back to this. So what are the best types of training that will actually help your brain function? Well, guys, you're gonna actually love this. Weight training. And that's why I popped into my little bio as well. That I love anything that makes me feel strong AF, or strong as fuck. I don't know about you guys, but I like to swear. Australian, I don't know. But yeah, so weight training, it does actually help to let your body adapt to cortisol. So what does that mean? If you're weight training, and also if you're HIIT training, so high intensity interval training, you are helping your body and your brain to learn how to adapt to stresses. And we do that because as we're doing weight training, the stress or the cortisol is increasing through that set, and then we rest. And as we rest, we're bringing our cortisol levels back down around about baseline, depending on how long your rest periods are, which means that you're getting to adapt again. And then as you do the next set, you're increasing it all over again. So that is probably starting to get a little bit of a light bulb into your brain of like, okay, but if I'm having a really long workout, or what if I'm doing something like steady state cardio where you're just running flat out for like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, then you're going to be increasing your cortisol for quite a long period of time. And what I like to show to my clients is that depending on what their goals are, look at, and I normally just Google a little image for this, but I Google a sprinter versus a marathon runner. And you can literally see the difference of how cortisol affects their body. So what you can see with when you're looking at a sprinter is that their muscles are really nice and full. Their skin is also nice and plump. So they have this nice sheen about them. Their muscles look really full and really supple. Supple is a really fun word for this. But they just look really healthy. Conversely, if you look at a marathon runner, they are going to look really depleted. Like their muscles look really stringy. Like it just looks, instead of plump, they look really lean, but it's not a nice lean. It's like all ropey and stringy muscles. And their skin has like a papery consistency to it. So if you're wanting to have more of a youthful look to your skin, which means that your cells themselves aren't degrading and aging quickly, you're going to want to go for more of a workout styled around a sprinter. So that means high intensity intervals or weight training, because it's kind of the same thing in terms of how the body responds to it. And you're probably also going as well, like, but what about your reps? What about like if I'm training for strength versus if I'm training for muscle gain, or if I'm training for fat loss, all that kind of stuff? I'll answer those questions at the end as well. Not fully, but I'll give you a bit of a taster. Yeah, so I'm going to come back to the training stuff too. There was some questions around what weights do you use. I'm going to come back to that one. But also, we want to cover some of the nutrition stuff today as well. Now today I kind of put it like an open topic so that we could cover a few different things, just so I could gauge like what are the topics or the questions that you have that are most important to you right now. So what I'm going to do with further lives is I'm going to start making them a little bit more specific so that you can ask me questions that are more specific about the topic that I'm going to talk about. And they're all going to be relevant to you. They're not going to be things that are just like, oh, I don't want to know that. They're all going to be relevant to what your needs are. If you have some topic suggestions as well, let me know. Always, once again, send me a DM or just like post a comment on a post that I put up. So next thing, appetite, decreased appetite. Now this can be related to your medication, or it could be related just to the fact that you have ADHD. So that is coming back to our not very best friend, one of those friends that we kind of want to let go of, cortisol. So with cortisol, everyone has it. In the lifestyle that we've created in this modern age, we actually have higher levels of cortisol compared to back like 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Why is that? Because we're living in a really fast-paced world where we have quite demanding jobs. Our world is very demanding now. We need to get things done fast. We need to jump into traffic, which is really taxing and stressful in itself. And really, we've got a life now that's stressful. Like even just popping onto like your Facebook or Instagram feed can increase your stress these days if you find something that's like triggering for you. So if our levels of cortisol are a lot higher, what does that mean for our appetite? What actually happens is that we have these little structures in our brain called the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands. They are linked to our adrenal glands that are sitting on top of our kidneys. So from our brain right down into our abdomen in our kidneys. So it's called the HPA axis. And I know that a few of the other specialists on this group will actually talk about the HPA axis as well at some point if they aren't already. But the HPA axis, so if we have a stressful life, it is running overdrive. And when our HPA axis is running overdrive, it means that we're increasing those adrenaline levels, we're increasing those cortisol levels to a point where we can actually get a bit of a burnout. But more importantly, even if we're not burnt out, they are going to be working conversely, so like in the opposite effect with our dopamine levels. So that means that as our cortisol starts to rise, our dopamine doesn't really have a fighting chance. And as we know for our lives, our dopamine's already sitting down here, so the more this raises up, the worse it is for us. And what happens in the body as our cortisol levels rise? Well, so the HPA axis does a myriad of different things. One of the main things that it does, and what acute or large short-term bursts of cortisol do in the body as well, is that it stimulates blood flow and neural activity or energy to the brain, to our eyes, and to our limbs. The reason why it does that is that we are in fight and flight mode. So, well, fight or flight mode, not and. I mean, sometimes it's both. But we are in that moment where we think that we're being chased by a bear. So our body and our subconscious don't actually know that we're not being chased by a bear, unless, I don't know what countries you guys are in. I hope that you don't get chased by bears all that frequently. I don't, I'm in Australia. We do have drop bears in Australia, but they don't really chase us, they just drop out of trees. So what our subconscious and our body is relaying to is that we are in a dire situation that our life depends on. So everything that isn't a necessity for survival is going to be downregulated with its neural activity or our energy stimulus and our blood flow. And that is mainly your digestive system. So when your cortisol levels are increasing, that means that your stomach and your digestive tract aren't getting the nervous stimulation and the energy or the blood flow to those organs. So your appetite is going to drop. Some of you may have heard of a thing called the gut-brain axis. Your neurotransmitters such as dopamine start off in the gut. I'm going to do a whole live based on kind of gut work to help boost your brain function as well. That's just a little reminder for me. I needed to say that out loud. Yeah, so if your gut function is going down, that means that your dopamine levels are going down. It means that your appetite is going down. And it means that it's going to be harder for you to eat. We have a couple of different hormones that are also related to that as well. They're called ghrelin and leptin. So the best way to remember like which one does what, leptin is released when you are full. Ghrelin is that growling that you feel in your belly when you're hungry. So ghrelin, growling. And if your cortisol levels are high, your ghrelin is going to be dropped off. Over time, your body is going to learn that we don't really need ghrelin all that often unless we are in a restful state, which clearly we're not going to be in all that frequently because our lifestyles are crazy and we have ADHD. So just to give, so that you guys can know that you can talk about things a little bit more personally, I'm going to give my experience with appetite suppression as well. Like I mentioned, I was only recently diagnosed, and I should have been diagnosed a long time ago, like most people out there that are diagnosed as adults. But I actually grew up from day dot. So the moment that I grew up, I had zero appetite. Like I'm talking from a baby, I just did not want to eat anytime, anywhere, anything really. So what that meant was that I would eat the smallest amount in the morning, and then I'd literally walk over 2Ks to school and sit there, be starving. Clearly, I already had focus issues in school, but they were double timed, probably even more so because of the fact that I didn't actually have any food in my stomach. So I'd start getting to a catabolic state. Catabolic means that your body is breaking down. That would happen to me every morning, that I would start getting like dizzy, lightheaded, and my stomach would feel like it's gnawing into itself. And then I'd get to recess and I'd eat like half a muesli bar, if that, and then the cycle would continue for the rest of the day. So I was always sluggish, my brain was always just not functioning. And that's how I lived the first like 18, 19, 20 years of my life. It wasn't until I was about 19, 20 that I started actually eating properly. And when I'm stressed, that eating disorder actually kicks back in again. So it's not a typical eating disorder. I've had it described to me by one of my psychologists as a food avoidance syndrome. But that's the same psychologist that also picked up later on, like a couple of years later, which is this year, that I actually have ADHD. So it's kind of related, but that's how much my appetite was suppressed. So very early morning, I just did not want to eat. And you might probably asking like, why is it the early morning that you're not wanting to eat? So sometimes for a lot of people, breakfast is the hardest meal. And it's kind of not good for this reason that the intermittent fasting fad has kind of kicked into gear. Intermittent fasting isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can be used really effectively to help amplify your health. But a lot of people have jumped on the train of that they have reclassified that they skip breakfast to, no, I'm just intermittent fasting every morning. But reality is they just have too much cortisol circulating through their body that their appetite is suppressed. So don't you think it'd be a little bit more effective to start looking at how the brain's functioning, how you are functioning in terms of your stress levels, so you can actually increase your appetite earlier in the day. Now, why is appetite so important, and why am I actually bringing up that maybe it's not a good thing if you're skipping breakfast? Well, timing of your meals is very important for your brain function. Reason being is that our whole body, it needs food to survive. We know this. This is why we eat every day. Well, I hope that you guys eat every day. But so nutrient timing, I'm going to cover a little bit more fully in, yet again, another live, but just to give you a little bit of a snippet. So, if you do have ADHD and you're noticing that your appetite is suppressed early in the day, it's good to start getting two things in your meals early in the day. One is protein, two is slow burning carbohydrates. If you can also add in fats into that as well, which will help to slow down carbohydrates, and I'll cover those three in a little bit. So those are your three main macros, and I say main macros because there's a fourth one. I'm not going to mention it today because it's really not what you want to put into your day. It's going to kind of cut away all of the good work that you're doing with your body with that fourth one. But your three main macros, so you've got proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Those three your body needs, your brain needs, wait for it, carbohydrates to function. So a lot of people cut out carbohydrates in their diet because they think that carbs are bad. Carbs are not bad at all. Carbohydrates, or glucose, which is what all carbohydrates are converted to, is your main energy source. So glucose, or glycogen, as it's stored in the liver and in the muscles, is where you get your energy from. And your brain needs carbohydrates to thrive. Yes, ketogenic diets are a thing as well. I'll cover that. If you ask for me to cover ketogenic diets, I will. I will cover how that actually helps with brain function if carbohydrates aren't working for you. So if carbohydrates are so important, why did I mention before slow burning carbohydrates? Why not just have huge high carb breakfast first thing in the day? So something like cereal, toast, all that kind of stuff. Maybe even a can of Coke early in the day. Perfect, yeah? You've got your glucose, you've got your energy, done. Well, no. So with having high amounts of carbohydrates earlier in the day, your blood sugar levels are going to spike and then they're going to drop. So with that, if your energy levels are spiking and dropping and the same thing's happening in your brain, what's your brain function going to be like? Not all that good, huh? So what we actually want to do is we want to give more building blocks for your brain, for your digestive system as well, and for your whole body to be able to thrive earlier in the day. So that's where proteins come into it. For most people that have very high cortisol levels, and this comes to medication as well, because the same thing is interplaying in the body, that it's going to be playing on your HPA axis and it's going to be down-regulating your digestive function, which will be making you feel nauseous, which will make you feel like someone put it into the questions, just low appetite. So what actually happens when we start adding in things like proteins and some healthy fats? So bad fats are things like fast food, that's trans fats, we don't want those. Healthy fats we do want. So healthy fats can come from things like avocado, coconut oil is an absolute fantastic one, and nuts. Nuts are great because they have carbohydrates in them as well. You don't want to eat too many of them because they are very heavy in calories, but we do want to have a small amount. So maybe like a tablespoon or a couple of tablespoons of nuts. But protein early in the day. It's going to be really hard for your bodies to break down because your stomach requires to have a lot of digestive enzymes to break down protein. The carbohydrates, that starts to be digested just in your mouth. So as soon as you start eating carbohydrates, you start to digest them. But with proteins and fats, it waits until the stomach for you to actually start digesting them. So with that, if you're having proteins earlier in the day, you're actually going to help to give the building blocks to your muscles and to your brain to be able to keep turning over. So it's going to be helping to plump up your cells to give them all of the amino acids that they need to fire properly. So proteins and carbohydrates. You're probably thinking like, just have a protein shake, cool, that will do it. Yeah, it's a simple way to do it, but it's not the most ideal. The best thing that you can do is literally, if you're not vegan, get some meat. So meat it's an animal product, I know, but we are also animals. So with that, when we're eating more animal-based products, it's easier for our body to take on those nutrients. Plant products are only about 40 to 50% bioavailable, and that means that it can only be converted into our body to be utilized. So if you're basing your diet on a plant-based diet, which is absolutely fine, I 100% agree with the ethics of it, but your body is going to have an easier time converting all of the nutrients from meat products, good quality meat products, so your organics, your free range if you can't afford organics, or wild if you can get your hands on them as well. Your body is going to be able to absorb those and utilize them so much easier. Okay, so what would my typical breakfast look like? Probably would freak a lot of you out, but I would have literally chicken, avocado, or macadamias. They are my favorite. So chicken, avocado, great. I might have something like quinoa as well, which is a grain that is once again a slow burning carbohydrate. And that gives me some fiber to help break down the meat as well. Gives me the carbohydrates that I need. And with the fiber just as well, just to get back onto that gut-brain axis, the fiber will help to get your gut microbiome working a lot more efficiently so that you have good bacteria there to make those neurotransmitters like dopamine. So if I'm having things like chicken and avocado for breakfast, what am I having for the rest of the day? I'm going to answer that one in another live coming up soon. But there's a bit of an idea for how you can start kickstarting your day. If you're having trouble eating in the morning though, and you're needing to increase your appetite, foods that are really good for doing that are bitters. So things that taste bitter will actually get your digestive enzymes and your vagus nerve, which helps to stimulate your digestive system, it's functioning a lot quicker. So bittery things, you can use like rocket, you can have apple cider vinegar or lemon juice will help to do that. If you have a tea in the morning with, let's say, a green tea, because green tea will help to increase your norepinephrine, but it'll also help to clear out the plaque from your brain, which will help to wake you up a little bit better. But the green tea with apple cider vinegar, I was going to say apple juice, but apple cider vinegar and lemon juice, that will help to get your digestive enzymes stimulating early in the day so you can start eating a little bit faster. So coming back to, and we're going to start finishing up soon, I'm going to come back to the question of what, and I think it was about kettlebells. So what is the right weight to pick? Well, I think that's going to be a lot easier to demonstrate that answer for you by doing that in an exercise-based live. So what I'm going to start doing, and I'm going to start this on Friday morning, is start doing some Instagram. Well, actually, I'll see if I can do them on Instagram and in the group as well. Let's figure it out with all of the technology stuff. But some workouts for you to either follow along or use as inspiration. I'm going to answer some questions in there as well, because picking the right weight is a little bit tricky. It might be dependent on things like what exercises are you doing, what muscle groups are you utilizing, what are your reps, what are your sets, what is your rest, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to do a workout live on Friday morning. Those are going to be ongoing as well. And I'll talk about more of that stuff on Friday morning on my time, Australian Eastern Daylight Time. If you have any questions for that, I'll pop, after this one, I'll pop that event up into the Facebook group. You can start asking me questions relating to fitness in there. And just as another little bonus, so as of yesterday, as we all like to do, I did something really super fast yesterday and I put together a little ebook. I'm going to load it up into the files of this group. What it is on is how you can get your workouts done. So this is for people that find that their schedule is really busy or they just can't figure out how to go from wanting to train to actually training. So I've got the 7 hacks that will help you to actually make that happen and get your workouts done. That is free for you guys. In there as well is an extra little checklist of, like, if it's, even with those hacks, if it's still hard for you to get done, I've got a checklist in there just to help make it so extra simple. And what I'll get you guys to do is to, in this, oh, hey, Ren, I just saw your question from like 25 minutes ago. Well, not question, but comment. Howdy. I'll get you guys to comment onto this live, whether you're watching it now or whether you're watching it afterwards, whether you picked out or downloaded the pink or the blue copy. So just put pink or blue in the comments so I know. And there's an extra little bit in the checklist there that some of you guys, like literal guys this time, I don't know, I use guys as like a gender neutral term, but males, there's an extra little hint in the blue one in there of like, what is the, I won't actually say what it is, but why you should have that extra item in your workout bag. So when you come across that, send me a DM and I'll actually answer that question for you. It's got multifacets to it, so I thought rather than actually putting the answer out there, that I'd make you guys actually find it. But thank you so much for having me. I will see you every week and I'll see you on Friday. I look forward to seeing more of your questions and I look forward to seeing more of you getting onto the Facebook group. Post stuff up. That's what we're here for. We're a community. We're here to help each other. I'll speak to you guys soon. Have a good one.